All right, so today we're going to do something a little different. We're not just telling you a story, we're going to break it down piece by piece so we can really understand the mechanics of fear. We're diving deep into this dark and stormy narrative to see exactly how a classic ghost story gets built, from that very first drop of rain to the final chilling reveal. Let's get into it. And right out of the gate, it's all about atmosphere. We are immediately dropped into a world that just feels heavy, oppressive, and full of secrets. This isn't just weather, it's a mood. The story is using a classic Gothic trick here, making the environment itself a character, and a guilty one at that. It's like it's already confessing to a crime we haven't even seen yet. And so begins Act 1. In the horror world, this is what we often call the lure. This is the part where our main character is carefully and cleverly guided away from anything safe and drawn, step by step, toward the danger. What's so cool here is how the story just systematically strips away his power. A lost road? Well, you've lost control of your direction. No phone signal? Now you're severed from the entire outside world. A frozen GPS? See, even our modern tech can't save us. And the darkness? Well, that's the oldest fear there is. The main takeaway here is that before we even see a monster, our hero has been made completely and utterly helpless. And this illustrates the lure perfectly. That light isn't a symbol of hope, it's bait. It's the one single point of focus in all that darkness, and it's pulling our protagonist toward a destination he was never supposed to find. But now, he can't possibly ignore it. He thinks he's found shelter, but what he's really found is the entrance to the trap. So let's move on to Act 2 and see how this all builds. We call this part the trap. This is where the protagonist crosses a threshold, literally by walking through the door, but also figuratively. The normal, predictable rules of our world, they're about to start bending, and then they're gonna break. And there it is, the first clear warning. And it's not a person, it's the house itself, the very air trying to turn him away. It's a really subtle but powerful moment that tells us this isn't just some old building. No, this place has a will of its own, and that will is hostile. The finality of this moment is what makes it so terrifying. The sound of that slam, it isn't just a door closing, it's the sound of the trap springing shut. Any chance of escaping, of just turning back and leaving, has just been completely taken off the table. The story has committed, and so has our protagonist, whether he likes it or not. And now, the horror shifts from what you can see to what you can hear, which is often way more effective because our own imagination has to fill in the scary blanks. We hear that one single footstep from just out of sight. And then another one. The rhythm is what's so unnerving here. It's slow, deliberate, confident. This isn't some creature scurrying around in the walls. This is something in control. Something that knows he's there and is just asserting its dominance over the space. With every single step, it's not hiding, it's announcing itself, but on its own terms. And it forces our protagonist and us to just wait and listen in absolute dread. The tension becomes almost unbearable. And here's the pivot. The threat is no longer just some unknown presence, it's personal. This one question, why did you come back, completely reframes the whole situation. He thinks he's just a random stranger who took a wrong turn. But this voice, it implies a history, a connection that he doesn't understand. The horror now has a motive, and that motive is rooted in something that happened in the past. This brings us right to Act 3, the confrontation. All that suspense that was built up by unseen things is about to have a major payoff. The nature of the threat is finally going to be revealed, and the story shifts from being just unsettling to being actively terrifying. The long hallway. It's a masterclass in horror visuals for a reason. That distorted perspective creates this deep sense of unease, and that figure at the end becomes the focal point for all our anxiety. We're forced to look, to just dread the moment that figure either moves closer or gets revealed in the light. And there's the reveal. This highlights a key principle of horror. It works best when it's specific. It's not just a scary ghost. It's the unnatural details. The face twisted at angles that shouldn't be possible. The mouth stretched far too wide. These elements violate our basic understanding of what a person should look like, and that triggers a deep, instinctual fear we call the uncanny valley. And just as quickly, it vanishes. This is a classic jump scare, but it's presented here in text. The abruptness is just so jarring. It makes you question what you saw and totally heightens that sense of unpredictability. You literally can't trust your own eyes. Okay, this is the moment the house officially breaks the laws of physics. I mean, it's one thing to be haunted. It's another thing entirely to be trapped inside a space that is actively reconfiguring itself to keep you there. The physical reality of the lodge is now just as unstable as our protagonist's sanity. So this technique actually has a name. It's called impossible architecture. It's a huge part of psychological and supernatural horror. By making the environment totally illogical, a staircase that disappears, a corridor that loops back on itself, the story traps the character not just physically, but mentally. It erodes their sense of reality and their hope. And now we enter Act 4, A Promise Unremembered. This is where the story gets way deeper. We're about to learn the motivation behind the haunting, which transforms that pure fear into something way more complex and, honestly, more resonant. Tragic understanding. The power of this is just in its simple, elegant structure. On the left, you have a memory of love and a promise. And on the right, you see the devastating consequence of that promise being broken. This contrast gives the ghost a really tragic backstory, and it engages our empathy. Her rage isn't just random evil. It's born from love, from betrayal, and from this unbearable waiting. That emotional core makes the horror so much more profound. And with that understanding, the horror becomes deeply, deeply personal. Divyansh is no longer just an accidental victim who stumbled into a haunted house. He's the accused. The ghost isn't just haunting the lodge, she is haunting him. She's holding him accountable for a crime he doesn't even remember committing, which, let's be honest, is its own special kind of psychological terror. Finally, we've arrived at Act 5, The Inescapable Loop. This is where the story gives us a moment of false hope before delivering its true and often much darker final conclusion. This right here, this is the false climax. The audience and Divyansh are allowed to take this huge sigh of relief. The nightmare is over, the sun is out, he's safe. In horror storytelling, this moment of calm is almost always a setup designed to lower our defenses right before the final blow. And this reveals the true, brilliant twist. The haunting was never, ever confined to Ravenwood Lodge. The trap wasn't the building, it was the promise. By bringing the ghost's voice through his phone, the story is telling us that this entity isn't tied to a place, it's tied to him. He can't escape it just by leaving the woods. And here it is, the final terrifying image. He never escaped at all. He simply moved from one prison to another. And that smile is the most chilling part. It's a sign of victory, of possession. Ultimately, the story leaves us with a really terrifying question. What happens when the thing that's haunting you isn't a place you can leave, but a memory you can't